Right, sir, we are live on YouTube. Abhishek sir will be taking ahead this session. Thank you, students, for joining and have a good evening.
Thank you so much. So let's begin well, first with the session. So the agenda for today's session, as you can see, is we shall be specifically talking about the QA section that we have in IPMAT, right? All types of the integrated program entrance tests. Now, if you look at the QA section in those tests, what are the skills necessary? So basically, we'll be starting off by understanding what do you mean by QA? Okay, so I'm sure all of us do understand what is QA, but more precisely, we'll try to understand what type of questions are being asked in this section. And as you all know, this is one of the most important sections that you have. It's there in every IPMAT test that you have, be it for the Rohtak, be it for the Indore, be it for the JIPMAT, all right, which is for Jammu, Bodh Gaya. So QA section is pretty consistent across the three formats and of course several other tests also. So we need to understand what is QA before we start addressing how do we ace the QA section for IPMAT. So I have the plan prepared for today's session. Let me quickly take you through the plan for today. So the plan is as follows. You can see it on the screen right now. So the outline for today's session is we shall, after we understand, of course, QA, we shall start by looking at the various patterns that we have for the integrated program entrance tests. What are the different tests that we have? What are the sections that you will be tested upon, right? All of that. Now, second thing, after that, we shall be looking at why QA is important, right? Why it is a game changer, so to say, in the IPMAT test, and why we shouldn't be ignoring this particular section. And as we are focusing on it, what are the aspects specifically that we should be particularly worried about, particularly focused on? We shall be looking at that. Now, as I said, we have two sets of aspirants, hopefully here as well. Some of you would be taking the IPMAT next year, and some of you who have little more time, one extra year. So we'll try to address the action plan for both the groups separately in separate slides. Of course, as we're discussing QA, I would also like to highlight. So basically, I would be defining QA in a certain way in this session. And keeping up with that definition of QA, I would like to share a few examples as to what do I mean by QA. For example, I would say in QA, shortcuts are important. I'll take a couple of examples to explain why is it so. And likewise, I would say in QA, your logical thinking should be very, very strong. Now, you might be surprised when I say this. Now, because in QA, what does logic has to do? It is math. But over here, we need to understand that when we say QA section, as far as your competitive exams go, that's not the quant or math that you have in your class 11, class 12. It's very different from that in the sense that here the QA section that you have is a basic school level math. However, here you will have to kind of be on your feet, think really fast, right? And if you're given with a situation, you need to apply the known concept in that new situation quickly. Now, if you talk about your board exams, the urgency is not so much because you have relatively more time there, right? Now here, that's one difference. We'll talk about other differences also. So what are the examples? I'll just share a couple of examples for that. Now, one more important aspect of overall preparation for the student would be taking tests, mock tests. When I say mock analysis, what I mean by that is mock test analysis. So how do we do that, right? And why is it required? We shall be spending some time on that as well. And then we'll be moving on to quick few do's and don'ts, right, with respect to the preparation. So there are certain things that students take for granted, certain other things that students don't really focus on, So what are the basic do's and don'ts? I will be letting you know about those. So let's get started. So the very first thing before even I start with the test patterns is, what do you mean by QA? Let me start off by explaining that. So when I say QA, quantitative ability, quantitative aptitude, right? Whatever you call it, QA is quant, mathematics. Now, general understanding that students will have about QA is, it is math. But I would like to revisit that understanding, slightly modify that understanding, and say it's not just math, it is math along with logic element. Now, let me explain with the help of a small example. If I ask you, in how many ways can I pay a bill of 57 rupees? Using notes of denomination 1 rupee, 10 rupee, and 20 rupee. Now, this question at the face of it might look as a question from probably equation topic, or it maybe numbers topic, or etc. But this is a question that requires no math skills as such, high-fi math skills as such. Now, what you only require for this question is, you can give it a try if you want to later on. We are not going to solve this, but this requires no math skills. What it requires is, it requires basic counting skills. Now, if you're good with counting, anyone who's good with counting can as well solve this question. And this is the type of question that you actually expect in your competitive exams. So thus here, when we say QA section, people generally understand it as the math section only, but I would like to kind of modify it as I say, it is math along with logic. So you can call it as logic math. Now, most of the questions that you get in your IPMAT actually would be basically representing the same aspect again, that it's not pure maths that you have most of the times. Because if you talk about, we'll be talking about that in the session as well. If you look at your IPMAT, the most important section that you have is arithmetic. And when we talk about arithmetic, it is most of the times pure common sense. So that means you don't require high level math skills for solving an arithmetic question. Now, sometimes even for algebra question, or maybe numbers question, or maybe permutation combination question. So no math skills as such are required for answering this question. So that is one basic difference that we need to realize when we compare our school maths versus the math that you'll be learning out here when you are enrolling. So if you have already enrolled, that's great. Otherwise, if you will be enrolling for the IPMAT course at time. So I hope you understand the difference between the two. Very, very briefly, I try to explain it. If there are any doubts, please keep writing the chat messages. I would be looking at the chat as well as we proceed with the class. Now, let me quickly share the test pattern. So majorly, we have 3 examinations that we generally talk about. First is the IPMAT Indore, which is conducted by IIM Indore, right? So this institute is like the pioneer, right, of this integrated program in the country. So it was started way back in probably around 15 years back, right? So these are the starters, all right? These are the people who have actually given us the IPMAT and the IPM program as such. Now, back then, when it started, the number of test takers were pretty low, right? Probably less than 10,000. Right now, the numbers are very, very strong, 4 times of that, right? Anyways, so IPMAT Indore is conducted by IIM Indore, but this score is accepted by several other national level institutes like other IIMs. IIM Ranchi, for example. IIM Shillong, for example. Amritsar also accepts this. And there are some other institutes that we have, like TAPMI is there, IIFT Kakinada is there, right? Nalsar, Hyderabad, which offers its integrated program, it also accepts the IPMAT test course. Now, if you look at the test areas, so you have one is QA, the quant math section. The other is the language section, as you see here. Now, quant comprises of, as you can see, 35 questions, 45 questions overall, and VA as well is also 45. However, in Indore, IPMAT Indore, one particular type of question is tested, which is essay question, right? Short answer type of question. Now, in this, if you know already, your accuracy matters a lot, because here you don't have the aid of the options in answering a question. Now, here your concepts are tested to maximum extent. because you cannot do some kind of reverse engineering out here to get to the answer. You cannot really back substitute the option choices and check for the answer. So this is one area and unique to IIM Indore, IPMAT Indore only, which tests you heavily on your concepts. Now, MCQ is the general MCQ, multiple choice question that we have. This is the marking scheme, and the time limit that we have is 2 hours with sectional time limits. Right? There were sectional time limits. Now, the other test that we have, IPMAT Rohtak, which again, if you look at the pattern, you have QA, you have DILR, you have the language, right? And equal number of questions, right? And there is no sectional time limit as such. The marking scheme is the same, right? However, if you note here, if you're already aware, great. Otherwise, let me just highlight that point. For the essay section, there is no negative marking as we see, right? So negative marking is there only for the MCQ once. So no sectional cutoff. But this tests you on all the 3 areas. There is DILR also. DILR, by the way, is data interpretation and logical reasoning. And the third test that we have that is commonly there at the national level IPMAT test is GIPMAT, which is the combined test, right? Common test for the IPM programs of IIM Jammu and as well as the Bodh Gaya. So if you look at the sections there, again, you have QA, DILR, and VARC, the 3 sections that we have. Number of questions, right? It's slightly different. So sorry, it's a typo error. So number of questions are 33, 33, and 34, right? 33, 33, and 34. So overall, there were 100 questions. Marking scheme is the same as any other IPMAT that we have. Total time limit is also different here, right? We have slightly more time as compared to the other IPMAT exams. So the purpose of starting off the session with this comparison of the tests is to highlight one small point that I was already referring to at the start of the session, which was QA is common everywhere. So no matter which IPMAT you wish to take, you will have to go through this section, right? And there is also this concept of overall cutoff and also the sectional cutoffs, which would be actually standing in front of you, facing you, the fear, right? Because if you are really good in language, but not so good with QA, right, you will struggle to get calls from most of the institutes. Right? So thus you need to do well. There's a need of absolutely doing well in the QA section. Moving on. Now let's spend some time in understanding the QA section in IPMAT, but let's clear off some points first, right? It's one of the most important sections that you have, right? As I said, it's there everywhere in all the tests that you would be planning to take. Now, we need to very clearly understand the difference between the board examination and your IPMAT, the competitive exams. Now, in board exams, we need to understand that over there, the steps are important, right? How you are presenting the solution, probably your handwriting, right? What is the flow of the solution? Is it legible? The handwriting is legible or not? So many factors which decides your success. But when it comes to a test like IPMAT, your approach doesn't really matter. If you're able to answer a question by using a shortcut, you're welcome. You're able to answer a question by using some approximation technique, you're more than welcome again, right? So that way, we need to understand that the IPMAT and the board examinations that we have are 2 different games that we are set out to play, and we need to prepare differently for the 2. Now, just to elaborate more, answer matters as far as board exam, as far as the competitive exams is concerned. The approach doesn't really matter. If you're getting the right answer, that is the end of the story for us, all right? If you're getting the right answer, we'll be given 4 marks for that. Approach doesn't really matter. So there's no step marking like we have in board exams. Now, what do the examiners test basically when they are giving you the QA section or the DILR section or the VARC section? Let's talk specifically about the QA here. Now, the examiners would be testing you on the following parameters. So one is your logical ability, logical skills. So please understand, I already shared here that in your con section also, of course, there is place for logic. There's place for logic out here also, right? So one of the things that they'll be testing you on is your logical ability, how well you can understand the given condition, right? Point number 1, understand the given condition. Point number 2, apply the concept that you know in that new condition, in that given condition, right? So how logical you are, right, with respect to your thinking, with respect to your way of answering a question. Because sometimes we understand that there is a long approach that we have for a question, and there is a shortcut approach. So which approach would you wish to share? As far as your competitive exams go, you should always be going for the shortcut approach. Practical application of the concept under pressure. Because please understand, when you're taking the board examination, as I said sometime back, the time factor is not that critical. Of course it is, but not as critical as it would be in your IPMAT. So just to give you an idea, fair idea, in IPMAT, the three sections that we have, QA essay, QA MCQ, and the VARC, you probably have around 40 minutes per section. Now, some of the sections have 30 questions. 30 questions. Now, you need to go through 30 questions. Of course, not solve all of them, but still, going through 30 questions itself in 40 minutes is a big challenge. So here, how well you apply the concept that you know, practical application of the concept that you know under pressure situation is of course being tested by the examiner. So this requires a lot of practice, and practice not in terms of reading books or reading theorems or reading formulae. Practice in terms of taking the test actually, mock tests, right? Conceptual understanding, not just the by-hearting nature, right? The rote work that we have, right? So conceptual understanding is very much there, because here the situation would be generally changed. You won't be able to apply the formula directly. So then how do you apply the formula after changing the bits and pieces that you have, small points that we have in the given problem? How do you apply the formula? That will be tested here. Time management, because here you're working under a lot of pressure, time pressure. So how do you manage your time? Are you going through all the questions or only a few? Are you solving all of them one by one, or you're going in random order? Are you spending too much time on a question? All these things would also be tested, of course, because see, you're entering a field which is to do with management, right? Management field, right? Because once you enter IPM program, after your regular 3 years of study, whatever you study there, you study arts, whatever, psychology, whatever you study. Now, the last 2 years will be your MBA. So basically, you'll be sitting with people who have taken the test later on in their lives and entering that particular IIM. I'm Indore or I'm Shillong, whatever. Now, that means this IPM provides you the gateway into the corporate world as far as the managerial roles are concerned. So in the corporate, of course, you'll not be going in the technical roles. You would be going in the managerial role, which has more to do with managing people, managing finances, managing the brand communication, etc. Right? So you'd be dealing with all of that. So if you're dealing with that, they would of course require someone who has aptitude for that. So for example, let's say academically you are really bright, but you're stubborn in that you want to solve a particular question for sure. Then probably you're not cut out for IIM Indore, because they would be more interested in someone who has little less knowledge, but is aware of the fact that he's not able to solve a particular question, let it pass. Because you have this option of skipping a question. So time management actually tests you on that particular aspect. So these exam setters, right, the examiners would be testing you on that particular aspect also. In QA2, moving on. So there are a few more points that I want to elaborate. So let's look at the basic weightage that you get to see, rough weightage. There's of course not exact numbers, so I have given this approximate wherever possible, because this keeps on changing year on year. It keeps on changing test to test. But still, one thing is certain, the most important area that one cannot neglect ever is the arithmetic. Now, what do I mean by arithmetic? Arithmetic basically deals with your percentage calculations, your ratios, your multiplications, your fractions, basic things, adding two fractions, all right? Or finding out A is what percentage of B, those kind of questions. So the topics that we get under arithmetic are topics of your school level. So for example, simple equations. For example, ratio. For example, percentage, simple interest, compound interest, etc. All these topics, and they have heavy weightage, as you see. Roughly one third of the paper, right, is your arithmetic section. Next is algebra. As you see, the weightage here, it's also one of the heavy weights that we have here. Numbers slightly lower, right? But again, see, these numbers can vary year on year, as I said, right? Modern maths, higher maths is approximately 20%. Geometry is also decently there, all right? So that means out here, all the areas of mathematics that you will be studying for competitive exams are more or less important. Some are more important, as we see, some others are little less important, but at the end of the day, all are important. So looking at this table, what I would like to highlight is there are certain core concepts that you need to focus on. That means you need to know what is important, what matters, what is not important, what doesn't matter. You need to have that fair idea and then accordingly modulate your preparation uh, around that. Now, it's, as I said, important section present in all the tests. This is a repeat point, but core concepts that you need to follow is something that you need to understand. Arithmetic, for example, you cannot really skip that, right? You cannot really avoid that. Heavyweights, as I was saying, are arithmetic and algebra. So it's critical for your preparation that you prepare well on these areas, right? You cannot really ignore this. Middleweights, middle category, geometry, modern maths, right? Which is very much required if you want to push up your scores. Because please understand, people are very well aware that there is sectional cutoff, and sectional cutoffs are usually low. So probably around 20%, 30% of the test marks for that section is a sectional cutoff. So if people are really worried only about sectional cutoff, the problem is the overall cutoffs are generally very high. So if you're really worried only about the sectional cutoff and try to do just well, just sufficiently well, you might miss out on the overall cutoffs. So if you don't want that to happen, just a minute. So if you don't want that to happen, just give me a minute. Guys, can you please confirm if I'm audible still? You can hear me because I don't, I see that the screen is paused.
Sir, you are audible, sir.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. But just a minute. Just give me 1 minute. I'll just stop the share and reshare the screen again. Just give me a minute. Yes, I'm just reopening it and I'll be resharing it. But the annotations are gone. Guys, I'll just try to explain that again. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah. I'll just go to the slide that we were at. So basically, we're trying to understand the middleweights and so basically, which are the important sections, right? So I was trying to explain that if you are so worried about the sectional cutoffs which are very low, you might miss out on the overall cutoff, and hence it is important to maximize your score in at least one of the sections. So be it QA, be it VARC, or be it DILR, please ensure that one or two sections are your score maximizers. Now, for that to happen, as far as QA is concerned, you cannot rely only on the heavyweights. You will have to get down to the middleweights as well. That's what I was trying to explain before there was that technical glitch. Now, so basic purpose of sharing this particular slide is you need to understand what matters. So which section matters, how much is what you need to understand. Okay. Okay, moving on. Now, there are a few important rules that I would like to share with all of you. So just try to follow these rules, try to understand these golden rules, particularly if you are planning to prepare for the QA section. Right? QA section, it makes a lot more sense. So the first rule that I have for you is you need to understand your concept really, really well, because concepts are your building blocks. It's like the foundation of your overall success. So if you are weak in the concept and you're really good with the formula shortcut, now you might falter a few times because the formula will not always work. So thus, the very first rule that I have for you is when you're sitting for a QA class, all right, if you already enrolled with us, right, you would know that we give a lot of importance to concept understanding, all right, imparting the concepts and all, right. So we do that. So please learn your concepts well. So know your concepts. So I call it a C. That's the very first rule, right? First thing to take care of. Now the second is A. Learn the application also. So when you're learning a concept, say for example, I'm learning ratio concept. Now I also need to understand ratio could be applied in variety of problems. For example, ratio could be applied in time and work based questions. If you know ratio of the rates, you can figure out the ratio of the times and all that. You can apply ratio also in simple interest, compound interest sometimes. How do we do that? What are the things to be taken care of, right? Taken note of. All of that is what is the application part of it. Concept is one, but there could be multiple applications. So learn the application also. Right? So when I say application, so at this stage itself, I would like to highlight the importance of highlight the importance of shortcuts. Now, are shortcuts important for our test taking? Absolutely, yes. They're very important. For example, if I ask you, what is the sum of the first 100 natural numbers? Now, it's not unsolvable. Even if you don't know any mathematical formula, you can as well go on adding them and get to the answer. But of course, the amount of time you would take would vary a lot from someone who knows the formula. So thus, knowing the shortcut, knowing the formula, knowing the trick will create some difference between one candidate who knows it and the other who is not aware and he's just there, all right? Just to test the waters, right? Just to see how a IPMAT comes, right? He's not seriously prepared. He or she is not really seriously prepared. So shortcuts, do they matter? Yes, of course. Now, one more thing, when you're learning the application, please also be a good observer. Now, when I say observer, not your surroundings. Be observant with respect to your question. So, for example, what is the language in the question? Is it asking you to find out something which is impossible or something which is always true? So, something which is always false, definitely false, or something which is always true, definitely true. Is it asking you to find out at least? So, for example, if I say x is at least 5 versus I say x is more than 5. So these two are very different, right? So let's say you're reading this, but you're understanding this, then of course you'll make a mistake. You'll definitely, surely make a mistake, right? So observation also is very, very critical, right, guys? Next, you need to also improve on approximations because sometimes the question is not about solving the question. The question is not about solving it till the last step. Sometimes you can probably approximate. I'll give you one small example for that as well. Please try to think about the answer in your head. Say if I ask you, what is approximate value for 362 by 19? Approximate value. I don't want exact. Of course, calculators cannot be used. You'll have to actually calculate mentally or using pencil paper and get to the answer. So here, I'll just wait for 15 more seconds. Okay, let's look at this, guys. So if you look at this question, at the look of it, it appears to be division by 19 appears to be really, really complicated, right? I'm not really comfortable with division by 19. I can do by 2, by 4, by 5. That's okay. But 19, I'm not really comfortable. So here, approximations. Now, please note the numerator, 362. Can I say 362 is very close to 361? And now I recall 361 is nothing but, of course, I need to know this. It's 19 square. So numerator is around 19 square. By 19 will give you a value close to 19. So you'll actually calculate it. When you actually calculate this value, you get it as probably 19.05. We are saying approximately 19, which is as good as the exact answer. Elimination of option choices. So sometimes what happens is I don't know what the answer is, but I know for sure that option A and C are not possible, are not the correct answers. Then my choice will be reduced. Instead of choosing from 4 options, now I need to choose from only 2 of the options. So probability of going right, mathematics of it goes up, right? So elimination of option choices is also one of the key skills, key things to learn when you are also learning the application of concept. So that's the second part of the rule. Next is test taking. So of course you cannot compromise on this. If you learn the concept, if you also understood the application of the concept, now you need to test it. Now how do you test it? Now by taking, of course, some sectional tests, which would be topic-based test, right? Small tests, right? Only one particular section you will be tested on, only QA, or only LRDI, or only verbal ability and reading comprehension. Sectional test, or you may take full end test. So this test taking will actually help you improve certain skills, which are absolutely necessary when it comes to your competitive exams. Like I just mentioned a few, question selection. So please understand, in your QA, in IPMAT, you get 45 questions, right? 15 plus 30. Is it necessary to solve all of them? Of course not. Even by solving, as I said, roughly 20-30% of the paper, you might clear the cutoff. It's not necessary. But here you need to know which questions to pick, which questions to solve. Because one of the major complaints that students have, the past year students had, was after coming back, they said they were struggling with one difficult question for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 8 minutes. In the time, they could have solved 3 to 4 easier questions. So this is one of the key concerns that students have raised over the past several years, right? So you need to be careful about the question selection. Of course, the time management also, we discussed it a little bit in the previous slides, is also important. So test taking skills actually help you improve your time management, your question selection, your priority, the amount of time spent per question, etc. All of that. Now, one more, the fourth rule that you should never forget as far as QA is concerned is you need to revise it regularly. Because what generally happens is whatever formula, whatever theorem, whatever concept you learned couple of months back, you might forget easily. And it's not your fault or anyone, the teacher's fault. It's basic human nature that we will forget because you're already occupied with other areas. So geometry was done 2 months back. In the meantime, you discussed PNC, probability, functions, matrices, all of that. Now, in that process, you forgot geometry. That can very well happen. So thus, one more, the last rule that I have, the golden rule, if I may call, is revise regularly, right? Revision is always. So these are the 4 rules that I want you to remember and abide by in your preparation. So I would simply call it as CATR, C-A-T-R, right? C-A-T-R rule, right? Learn the shortcuts, rules, techniques. As I said, in application, that was important. Learn them wherever possible in the class, from the solution sometimes, right? Some short video you see online that we also do, all right? We also have our YouTube channel. I'm sure our students would be knowing it. Others also would have watched it. Over there, we share some techniques, some small shortcuts, right? You can learn from there also. Take tests, right? Take tests for improving the test taking skills, full length test and sectional test also. Let's move on. Let's quickly talk about the action plan that I suggest students must have. I'll take it separately, as I said, for 2026 aspirants and 27 aspirants on the next slide. Now, if I talk about 26 aspirants, let's talk about, let's divide the overall time. Roughly, we have around 9 months now, right? Till you go for your 2026 IPMAT. It typically happens 5th or 6th month of the year. So roughly 9 months. So I have divided it into three groups. In the first 3 months, what you should be doing, right? So the first 3 months are basically to understand, to strengthen your foundation. So get your basics right. That's the concept, right? Follow the CAR approach. You may exclude the test taking. For the first 3 months, not that much of test taking is required. So if you want to do test taking, you could probably take up some sectional tests, topic-wise tests, right? Not the full-length test, I would suggest, for the next few weeks, few months, right? Identify weaker areas, if you have any, because most of us will be having some weak areas naturally, right? So we are not good with everything that we do. We might be struggling with few areas. We might be really good with some other areas. Identify them, right? Now, if you're weak at some areas, please try to immediately address it as to what could be the corrective action plan you may take. For example, let's say I get to know I'm weak in geometry. And I understand that geometry has good weightage as far as your competitive exams are concerned. What should I do? I should start learning geometry from the scratch. Go back to your NCERT books. Quickly go back to school time, right? Revise the older things. Learn them again, right? From the scratch. Give some extra hours, but please do it. The reason is geometry is important as far as your IPMAT is concerned. Identify the weaker areas. So first 3 months, you should probably be doing this. Next 3 months after that. So basically with this, we are done with what? October, November, December probably. December, Jan, Feb. Next 3 months. Continue with CATR approach. Now include T also. So focus on the concepts, focus on the application. Now also start with test taking. Right? Continue with sectional test, but don't forget to analyze them, right? And also keep learning wherever possible. the techniques, the shortcuts, right? For example, there is something called as Vedic maths, right? So Vedic maths actually help us in multiplying numbers really quick. You know that part, right? Of course, you're not going to take that up here, right? But I'm just telling you shortcuts. By shortcuts, that is what I mean, right? Now, final 3 months before the actual test, right? So what you should be doing in the final 3 months. So by then, assumption is you're done with all the concepts, right? But of course, the revision should go on. It should continue, right? It should go on. So in the final 3 months, what should you especially focus on? So one of the things I suggest is you start with full length tests completely, all right? So probably one in a week, or in fact, two in a week. But whenever you take test, don't forget to analyze. We'll talk about analysis in a couple of slides, right? Later, we have a slide on analysis also. What do I mean by that? So don't forget this, because without analysis, taking test only and looking at your scores and being happy or sad about it is only a quarter job done, not even half job. It's only a quarter job done, right? It's like just going out to bat and not taking any feedback from the coach and making the same mistake again and again. It's very similar to that, right? So thus analysis will tell you, it's like your coach. It will tell you this is where you're going wrong. Right? You're spending too much time on these type of questions, right? So you're not learning the right kind of concepts. It would tell you that. So you need to listen to it, right? Keep doing the revision. Of course, you cannot exclude the revision just because we are at the final leg of our preparation. In fact, you should do it even more rigorously, right? The revision part. Okay, this is the action plan that I advise for the 26 aspirants, right? You can modulate it a little bit. If you say, no, sir, I'm extremely weak. I cannot do it in 3 months. I need 4 months for clearing my concepts. Take 4 months. It's up to you. See, I've just shared the rough idea. Now, how you want to fill it up, how much time you want to devote, it's entirely up to you. One more thing that I forgot to mention is keep a tab on this. Every day, on an average, try to go for around 25, 30 questions. Now, where do you get these questions from? From your handouts. If you're already enrolled, from your handouts that we offer, all right, that we give you in the class. Now, there are some additional handouts, QATs and all that, like QAPEs that you have, additional handouts. And then you have your SM booklets, textbooks, right? You'll get your questions from that. And of course, you have sectional tests, right? Full length tests. That would be another source. So this is the action plan. Moving on. For 27 aspirants, right? First year, take it slow, right? You have some time, so please take it slow. Don't rush. Don't get burned out really quick. You have time, but please use it to your advantage. Now, what do I mean by that? So please work really, really well, slowly on your concepts and the application part. All right, work on that, right? So if you want to learn a concept, please learn it really well. If need be, as I said, go back to your NCRTs. Focus on developing the concept in important areas. You have some time, so please plan your preparation. What you want to do more and what you want to do little less for now. Right? You can plan that. So focus on the most important one, right? Arithmetic, take it topic by topic. Still, practice for you people will also be necessary. You cannot say I'll practice it next year when I'm left with only a few months to go. No, start now. Of course, you can go slow, as I said. My friends here would be doing 30 questions approximately. I need to do only 8 to 10. Take it slow. This for your first year plan. Second year, it would be as what we discussed in the previous slide, right? You could probably have 4 months, 4 months, 4 months plan instead of 3, 3, 3, right? But something on same lines as the previous slides. Let me just share a small example to illustrate what do I mean by learning shortcuts, learning tricks. See, again, it's not mandatory that you will follow, because some of you might be out of touch with mathematics. Others could be really interested. So I'm talking about both of you, both the students, all right, both the groups of students. The people who are interested, give it a try. People who are out of touch, listen to it. You need not follow, but listen to it. The intention is more important than the solution. Now, have a look at the question. If someone wants to give it a try, please try it. So what I'll do is I'll just hold here for a minute or two, right? I'll give you some time. Think about it. I'll just wait for a minute. If you give me a response, I'll just discuss that. Otherwise, I'll share the trick simply. Okay. Okay, guys, let's look at it. Of course, again, the concept is not important, only the intention, as I said. Now, here, the way to solve this could be very, very basic approach. A car owner buys petrol at 7.5 rupees, 8 rupees, and 8.5 rupees in 3 consecutive years. What is the approximate cost per liter of petrol over the 3 years if he spends 2040 each year? So, if he's spending 2040 in the first year, he would have purchased these many liters of petrol. He's spending 2040 in the second year, he would have purchased these many liters of petrol. Third year, these many liters of petrol. So what's the total volume? This by this, this by this, this by this. You can calculate it. I agree it's not so easy, but you may do it. After taking 30, 40, 50 seconds, you will get to the answer. But that's not it. I need to find out the average cost, right? So what is the total cost? 2040 for each year. So for 3 years, it will be this much. Now what you need to do is, my answer will be the total amount that I spent divided by total volume that I get here. Divide the two and you'll get your answer. I'm not going for the calculation as. Now, this is the usual way of doing it. And by this approach, you'll get your answer in around 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, probably 3 minutes. I don't know, depending on our speed. But here, a very small trick that will be of use is, I know that arithmetic mean is greater than or equal to harmonic mean for positive numbers. And if you notice, my answer that we are writing here, 6120 by 2040 by 7.5 plus 2040 by 8 plus 2040 by 8.5 is actually harmonic mean. So can I say whatever my answer is, it should be less than or equal to arithmetic mean? That's a trick. Now, what's the arithmetic mean of these three values? It's simply the average. So average is 8. So my answer should be less than 8 for sure. Now, less than 8 for sure, there's only one option, luckily for us. So thus, option choice C is your answer. So there is no need of doing this heavy calculations. You can get to your answer simply by doing arithmetic mean. I hope you followed it. Anyways, the intention was not to solve this, but just to, as I said, just to show you what type of questions and what type of trick can we apply when I'm talking about IPMAT. One more example for you to try out. You can just try this out. Will not solve it, but this was an actual IPMAT question. So this is the essay type, short answer type. You'll have to type in your answer. Okay, take the screenshot, try it out if you wish to. Now, how do we do the mock analysis? Now, this is relevant for, of course, 26 aspirants, but also, of course, for 27 aspirants too. They're not really far behind. 27 aspirants are also really, really quickly getting there, right? They'll also be having their test very soon. Take the very first piece of advice is take the mock as seriously as the actual test. Now, when I say as seriously, don't keep your mobiles near you when you're taking the test. Don't be disturbed by anything. For example, there is some instruction given by parents, by siblings, go and do this, do that. No, nothing like that. No breaks even, right? So take it very seriously. Because see, that's the very first thing that you must be doing when you're taking a test. You should have complete focus on the test. Now, if you're worried about 10 different things, of course, you'll not be able to apply the overall concepts, the tricks to its full efficiency. You'll not be able to do that. So thus, start with your mocks. Steps in analysis, there are a few steps. I will quickly share them. See, after you're done with the test, sometimes what happens is, if the test has 45 questions, now you're only able to attempt some 22 questions, suppose. So that means 23 questions remain unattempted after the test is over. So what you do is, go back home, once you get the solution and all, once the paper is available, take this 23 questions again in a time-bound manner. For example, 45 questions had 80 minutes. For 23 questions, take 40 minutes. Try to attempt again. See how many more can you get. The idea is, sometimes what will happen is there are some questions which are hidden somewhere in between that just somehow missed your radar. You were not able to identify. You were not able to pick them. Now you try to pick them. So retake the test. Attempting all the questions you skipped, you couldn't solve, in a time manner. But please ensure that you do it in a time manner, because that way the overall feel of the test will be intact. Because if you are at ease, you have the entire day for taking the test, you will do well for sure. So please keep the time pressure on your self. Retake the test. Second point is, have a look at the solutions provided. Once you are done with the test, we'll give you solutions. So the purpose of looking at the solution is, there is a possibility of learning a new trick, some new approach, some back substitution approach, some rule that you were unaware of. So such learnings can happen. Please maintain a separate register, I suggest, for all such new learnings, some new trick, new formula, which is very unique, which will help you save a lot of time. Make a list of topics you're consistently going wrong, doing bad. For example, I noticed that for the past 3 mocks, I'm consistently going wrong in triangles questions. Triangle is geometry. So what I'll do is, I'll go back to my books. I'll open the geometry. I'll look at the basics. I'll try to relearn them, right? I'll go spend more time with that particular area so as to ensure next time I don't go wrong. So make a list of topics. Do the EMD analysis. Now, what do I mean by EMD? I'll just elaborate on this. Easy, moderate, difficult. So when you're attempting, suppose you attempted 22 questions. Now, out of this 22, how many are easy? How many are moderate? How many are difficult? So for example, if the overall make is like this, suppose out of 22, some 8 are easy, okay, some 12 are moderate, 2 are difficult. It's a good selection of questions. Whereas compare this with 2 are easy, 12 are moderate, 8 are difficult. Now this is a bad selection, because for getting to the same number of questions, you're spending exponentially more efforts, more time. Now here, you had only 2 difficult, you could manage it, or maybe just randomly attempt it by using some trick, by some observation. Here you have 4 times of that number, difficult questions. So the selection is bad. Now, if you talk about this selection, this is further bad, absolutely bad. This is a blunder. So thus, doing the EMD analysis would tell you what type of question selection are you making during the test. Now, taking mocks without analysis will not yield any results. So I was telling you, it's a quarter job done if you don't analyze, right? Quarter is 1/4, right? 1/4. Now, let's quickly look at some do's and don'ts. So the basic do's that we have are, you can just quickly go through it. Focus a lot on the concepts because they're the building blocks. Attend all the classes. I'm assuming you're our students, right? If not, please consider look at our offerings. I'll just show you that also, right? Because we offer both online and offline classes, right? Attend all the classes once you enroll, right? If you're already our students, please continue with the attending of the classes. Clear all your doubts on the various concepts. This is one of the do's, right? Because that will help you in improving your overall learning. Revise regularly. Have a strategy for the test. So having a good strategy is actually half the battle won. So even before you start, you know how would you go, how would you play, how would you hit, etc. Right? Just have a strategy. Don't go in with a blank mind. Focus on all the areas of the test. Sectional cutoffs, sectional scores. Treat mocks as resources to learn, not just to score and compare. I hope you understood this point. So don't take mocks as a tool only for testing yourself. Of course, you test, but not only on the parameter of score. Okay, how much did you score? How much did I score? Not only for that. Please try to use this so as to improve your overall test taking skills. Stay motivated, right? Because overall it's a long journey, particularly for 27 aspirants. So don't lose out in middle, right? There is definitely light at the end of the tunnel. Do not treat IPMAT as your board exams. We have discussed the difference also. Do not overtly rely on tricks, shortcuts, because concepts are the building blocks. So if you say, I've learned the formula, sir, but in the test, formula won't be asked directly. It would be asked indirectly. You would be stuck. So don't overtly rely on that. Do not ignore weaker topics. Remember sectional cutoffs. Do not solve questions in order. Please decide your order. Pick up your questions, drop your questions, skip a few. Do not skip mock analysis. This is the biggest mistake you would make. Do not be worried by low scores in the initial few tests. It is absolutely natural. It's part of the learning overall, right? Moving on. So key takeaways from today's session. There's just some 3-4 points in just bullet points I would share. We have discussed how is competitive exam different from board exams. I hope that was clear. Important areas of the test, right? There's so many areas, arithmetic, algebra, and all, right? We need to understand what are the important areas for us to focus on, right? And for us to prepare. Having a plan, having a strategy is always advisable. Learning parameters. So how should we decide on whether I'm learning it right or wrong, right? What are the things that I should be concerned about? For example, quant, we have learned that concept is most important, right? After concept, application is also equally important. Now, if you know the concept, but not the application of it, you would come back with a really, really sad day, right? Having a sad day because you knew how to solve it, but you not even recall the right application of that form. You knew the formula, but you didn't know how to apply it. Such things can happen. Stay motivated, right? Stay motivated throughout the process. So with that, I'm done with the session. Just a couple of more slides. So as you know, we are offering courses in IPM and BBA, right? So people who have not enrolled, right? And if you're planning to go for your further studies, all right, because I am sure you all already understand IPM is like direct entry into your coveted IIMs, right? Because after 3 years, for that same seat, there will be lakhs of people fighting for. So just for your information, CAT, which is the entrance exam for IIMs, is taken by over 3 lakh people. It's a lot of people, right? Because as compared to IPM, which is few tens of thousands, right? It's very high number. So we do offer these courses, right? So we offer classroom programs, online flexi course, correspondence, right? All these, you can just check them out, right? Depending on your need, what you think would be applicable for you, please get enrolled. Just to share some of our success stories. So these are the students that we are really proud of, and we would like to see more of the students that we have in today's session next year here, right? Next year or the year after. So with this, I've come to the end of the session. If there are any specific questions that you have, queries that you have, you are free to ask. So queries with respect to when should I start, right? Probably. Or with respect to how should I prepare for a certain topic? Anything that you have in your mind, please feel free to ask. So no more questions? So all right, guys. So we'll end the session here then, right? Thank you. Thank you all of you, right, for your time and patience, and good night.
Thank you, sir.
Right here. Thank you.